Hey humans, what goes on? It's Jay with IRN. So today I'm making another dollar store My Little Pony. Today I am making Pinkie Pie. So I took this little pink Pegasus thing and I ripped her head off and threw it to the side. This one I had to do some mods, so be careful, get some scissors. If you need adult supervision, get adult supervision. I cut off what the wings were. I also put some, underneath once it was finished, I put some tape on it just so I could use something for the epoxy to bond to. This one is not going to be overly affordable because I can only use epoxy. There's really no other option for this one. I had to use epoxy on her just to keep it, whatever. So I got some tape underneath it. So when the epoxy is ready, you can adhese it to it. When you do use epoxy, please use gloves just because it is toxic. I forget sometimes, but please, if you're going to use epoxy sculpt, make sure that you use gloves. It takes about 24 hours to fully cure. So I started working on some other parts of the dolls while this part cured. It's pretty cool though because it does become nice hard plastic and it was really good for that. So I took some of my pink acrylic, I think it's acrylic yarn, on a doll needle and I started threading through the head. And I started pulling it apart by hand so it would be more like hair and less like yarn. I feel like I'm really speaking fast. I'm sorry, guys. That's just who I am, though. So I did it by hand because when I use a cat brush, it just seems to be wasteful. Anyway, so this is what her hair looked like. I would normally straighten it, but I wanted to keep it kind of curly because the photos of Pinkie Pie hair are curly. I pulled it back in a rubber band and then started removing her eyes with 100% acetone. Okay, now it's been 24 hours and the plastic is finally cured, nice and hard. So cover your face with something protective and start sanding it down just to make it a little smoother because it was still rough. Even the final product is still too rough for my taste. But I'm having the worst time with this pink, like this pink plastic will not blend. And it was painting wise, sanding, it was just a lot to deal with. Carefully, get adult supervision if needed. I cut a hole where the tail was because this one has a bunch of individual like threads, which I did not like. So I cut a hole where her tail would go. Then I took a piece of thread and I made a loop, and then I used that loop to pull through a bunch of the acrylic yarn, my bad. And I started making the tail the same way I did for the mane. I then took some pink acrylic paint and just started painting the whole thing. I didn't water this one down. I probably should have, but I don't know. I've had the worst time with this pink ponies. Like this for some reason this brand and pink and me don't go well together. So I just started covering it. It took me 4 to 5 coats to get an opaque color on this one. I don't know. I took some pink pastels and I went and blushed the body. It turned out okay. I can notice it in person. I don't know if you can really notice it on camera, but it's there. So you can skip the step if you don't have them, but it's nice to have. So then I think I put the head back on. I believe that's what I'm about to do. Yes, I put the head back on. It's pretty easy to do, just pop the head back on. Of course, you gotta be really careful with the acrylic paint because it will peel off if you don't spray it with a matte gloss, which I have not done lately because I just keep forgetting. I took some brown acrylic paint on my 00 brush, and I started going around the where the natural eye shape. I used brown on this one because it looked a little softer and sweeter and a little more innocent. I go back through and do black for the eyelashes later, though. This part I'm just getting the outline done of both where the the waterline is going to be and the beginning of the iris. I think the word is. What? Somebody tell me. I need to learn the words. Can somebody get me an anatomy book? So I still have the hair pulled back just to keep it out of the way. It was just easier to have the hair done instead of cracking the paint. Okay, so now I'm taking a light shade of blue, and I'm doing the middle part of the eye first. Then I'm going around it with a dark blue and trying to kind of fade it as I do it. I normally do it the other way around, but I wanted to try it this way. I think I like my normal method better. This was kind of messy, but it still worked. I'm going for that, gradient, light to dark color. But it still turned out. I don't know anything about My Little Ponies, and so I was looking at photos and I liked her blue eyes. Okay, I did not film this, but I painted the blacks for eyes and the eyelashes with some black acrylic paint and a brush. I totally thought the camera was rolling and it was not. So this is just me showing you what I've done, where the brush would have gone. I'm lame. Sorry, guys. So, anyway, I then took some white acrylic paint and went through and did the whites of the eyes. Um, this is always important to do. I don't know, it's always so white though. But I have this cream one that when I use, and it just doesn't. It looks more natural, but then on the eye it looks like she's sick. So I don't know. I then took a little bit of gray and I went around. Wait, did it yet? The next thing I want to do really is take some gray and do that. I did some eye shines next to make her eyes look more alive and exciting and full of happiness and joy in life. um, at some point, I did take some gray and go around it to give some detailing. Now I'm doing what I think is called her cutie mark. It's just some balloons. There, I took a light blue and light yellow acrylic, and I did uh, I think it's the streamers of the balloons are blue, and then the balloon itself is yellow, and then vice versa for the other two. I'm learning a lot about ponies. I really should watch the show or something, but or the movie at least. There's a movie. Anyway, then finally I dropped the camera, I guess. um, then the next thing I did is I got my clear nail polish out. I think this the part. Come on. Yeah, I took my clear nail polish and I glossed her eyes. It's just a cheap, easy alternative. It works for me. So anyway, that's my Pinkie Pie. Yep, there we go. And so here's a little slideshow of what she looks like. I'm proud of how she turned out. She looks cute. If you have any ideas for ponies you want to see, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember today is not like yesterday. Woo! Now sit for some awkward silence. Hey humans, what goes on? It's Jay with IRN. So today I am making my first My Little Pony, and I am making Rainbow Dash out of a dollar store pony. I wanted to test and see if I could make a upstanding looking doll out of a dollar store pony. So first I popped off her head, and then I cut her hair very closely with my scissors. I got in there with some needles. This was weird for me because I'm not used to doing ponies. I'm more used to doing dolls, obviously. This is my first one I've done out, so got the hair out. The tail was weird because it's so far away from the neck hole. I'm sure the people who do ponies all the time are used to this. I am not. After a lot of poking and prodding, I finally got the hair out. I don't know anything about My Little Pony. I just did this because, I don't know, I was inspired. I was looking up images of them and they look very cool. And I found this doll and I wanted to see if I could make it look nice. I took 100% acetone. I was very cautious right now because the plastic, I don't know how good quality it was, but it came off pretty easily. I still didn't want to get in there too much with it just in case it was, too much plastic. I didn't want to melt it. So, anyway, she's clear. Now she's cleaned off. I took some watered down blue paint and it's kind of almost like a milky consistency now. It makes it go on a little smoother. And I just went over the pony's head with this. I did not do the neck hole because it's just going to be inside their body, so there's really no point of it, and it'll just chip off and be a waste. I did about 3 coats over the head and the body, because I wanted it to be that opaque color. I didn't want anything coming through. And when watering it down looks better, but it does take more coats, I've noticed. But it's worth it. So then I started blushing the body with a blue pastel. The first one I used was a little too light. Later on I used a lot darker, and it actually shows up. The first one out was like the same exact color. Here we go. This one's the darker one. You can see a little more of it comes off a little bit darker. I did speed through this one because it was taking forever. The video was like 6 minutes long for this, and I'm like, what's the point? Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah, I'm blushing the body at the moment. I also took a little bit of red and I highlighted it just to make it look a little more alive and not look so pale and like dead. So her cheeks have a rosy glow, which you can see right here. Just a little bit, just enough so when it hits the light just the right way, you can see there's a little bit of red, and she's chipper and happy and alive. Because I don't want a dead pony. That's creepy. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. This project was different for me, but it pushed me into a different direction, and I enjoyed it. It was nice. If you like My Little Pony, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me do with more ponies. I took a dark blue and I went around the eyes with it. Normally, when I do human characters with a human skin tone, I try to go with like a brown instead of something too dark, because blue would be too dark for a human. But this fits because this doll's skin tone is blue. I mean, I guess I do the same thing if I had a doll that was blue skin tone. I think I did this with the Mystique doll. Um, but yeah, so I just went around the eye, the waterline of the doll, of the pony's eye. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I also did the inner circle. I tried to push the eye a little closer to the edge of the eyeball so that it would look like she's looking forward. I also highlighted the crease with a little bit of blue. I didn't want it to look too much like an eyebrow, so I did it fade out with my finger, but I don't think I got it on the camera. I took a dark blue and went around the, what's the word? Is that not iris? The I don't remember the word. I went around it with a dark purple, and I took a light purple while the dark purple was still wet, and I kind of tried to fade them together a little bit, so it looked a little more like a natural, like gradient look from dark purple to light purple. Um, and it turned out pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised with this. Also, the eyes, I don't know, maybe it was just bigger. I added a little bit of a metallic shimmer in her eye. For some reason, I did not get on the camera. I also took a little bit of white, and I went around for the whites of the eyes. Um, I then took a gray and went around it again for a shadow, so it looked a little more 3D. And that's a trick I've seen a lot of YouTubers do. I added the black dot for the black dot in the eye. I cannot remember words of anatomy. Oh. I then did my favorite part and added some white shine to the eye. I did a lot, so it just looked a little more happy. I then took a black acrylic paint on my thinnest brush I had, and I gave her some eyelashes. I was gonna do some 3D ones, but they just didn't seem like they were. It didn't really fit at all. I then took some white and I did some highlights on the crease and on the eyeball itself. Try to make it look a little more professional. I took some clear nail polish and went over the eyes to give it a gloss. Most people would use a gloss, but I only had clear nail polish. I then painted a small little rainbow dash symbol, I guess. I don't know the term for this. I don't know ponies. But yeah, I just took some red, yellow, and blue and painted the rainbow lightning bolt. Then I took some white and painted her little cloud over it. So many reference images next to this, this painting. Like right on the corner of my hand, there's just like so many photos. Then I went through with a little bit of blue and added some detail to make it look a little more like the image and a little less like a blobby white. Also, I kind of went around the rainbow itself to kind of make it stand out. So for the hair, I used embroidery thread for this because I honestly was trying to make this as cheap as possible. I threaded it through my dull needle, and I tied a knot at the end, and then I just started sewing it through the head. I did not film all this because that would take forever, and it really did. It took me a while to do this. So I'm just showing you the first one out. So once it's secured in there, I cut the edge so it's hair and not just a loop. Yay, hair. So that's her with her whole rainbow mane. And I did the same thing in the back of with the tail. I did one thread of each in the tail. This was a little hard because it was so far back. I did also have to go through and touch up a little bit of paint after doing this. Not a lot, just a little bit. I did not film that just because it was so quick and I kind of just wanted to get it over with. But yeah, so just when you do stuff like this, make sure you just check and have a little bit of extra paint left over. So anyway, that is basically the work for it. Once this was done and I got all the tail together, I popped the head back on, and that was. So here is the finished product. I loved how she turned out. She gave me that very vintage feel for back in the day when My Little Pony was a thing. I think that's what I was going for. I hope you guys like it. I had a lot of fun making it, and if you want to see more ponies, let me know in the comments, and I will try to do some more cost-efficient dollar store ponies. Well, here's a slideshow. Thanks for watching. Remember, today is not like yesterday. Woo! Awkward silence. Also, here's a before and after photo coming up. Hey humans, what goes on? It's Jay with IRN. So today I am making, I think the pony's name is Fluttershy, out of a dollar store pony. I'm doing this so that I can show people that you can still make a doll even if you can't afford a lot of expensive supplies. So right now I'm taking some 100% acetone. It was a couple bucks at Walmart, just putting it on a tissue, and I'm going to wipe the doll's eye off. I'm not rerouting the hair because, like I said, I'm trying to do this as cheap as possible and as easy as possible. So the hair was already the right color, so I'm just going to paint around it, which turns out to be a lot more difficult in the future. I took some yellow acrylic paint, which I got from Walmart. I think it was like $2 to $3. I watered it down so it came across a little nicer, and I did, I think, a total of 3 coats on this doll. It took a lot longer to get it opaque for some reason on this pink. I don't know why. The yellow and pink were just not going well for me. But after a bunch of layers and watering down that paint, it finally got there. And I got this, very nice little color. So, it did take a while though. Then I took some pastels. You really can skip this step if you want to, if you can't afford them. It didn't really do much for me. I'm used to doing it, and it really didn't show up much, so it's not really that important. I did take a little bit of red powder and just go on the cheeks to make her look alive and happy. But you can skip that if you can't afford it. I took some brown acrylic paint, which was like 98 cents. Put it on my little brush. My brushes I already had. I do not know the cost of them. I did kind of a circular eye for her. And then, because I wanted to make her look, very, according to the reference photos, because I have no idea about My Little Pony, I apologize. She looked like she had very big round eyes and very innocent, so I wanted to make those eyes as big and round as possible, while still making it look semi, fitting with the doll. I then took the brown line and went over it, kind of adding like a lash line. I'm using brown for this before black, just because don't want it to be too harsh. I took some dark blue, went around the edge, cleaned out the brush off, badly I might add. I then took some light blue and went around the inside of it. This is my new favorite thing to do with eyeballs. I go with a dark color on the outside while it's still wet, and then I just kind of fade them together, making them look a little more, natural and like a real human eye. Well, a horse eye, I guess. I took some gray paint and went around the whites to make it look like shadows, just make it look more 3D. Then I took my dark black acrylic, well, black acrylic, I guess, and I did the pupil. Is that the word? I don't know. I should learn words. And then I took the same and I added some eyelashes because the actual character seems to have eyelashes, at least in the photos. Then, my favorite part of all, I took some white acrylic paint and added some shine to the eye, made her look alive and very cartoon and animated. I took the same white and I went around the edges, kind of blending it with my finger to give her highlight. Then I took a light purplish pink, and I painted on, I think the word is cutie mark. I don't know. I looked it up. It's very confusing. This world's very new to me. It looked like little teeny butterflies in the photos, so I did that. Right here I took a light blue and filled in the bodies of the butterflies. Then I took some clear acrylic, clear nail polish and painted her eyes to give some shine. So here is my finished pony doll. My Fluttershy, yay! It was a lot of fun to make, and I'm going to be making more of these. If you like them, please leave a comment what you'd like to see for ponies. And thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember, today is not like yesterday. Awkward silence. Hey humans, what goes on? It's Jay with IRN. So today I am showing you how I make yarn wefts out of glue, string, and all that good stuff. Also, I will be showing you how I make glued wigs with the same stuff. I'm probably not going to use my cat brush thing because I don't like how much it wastes, but it's there. I also have a comb, some scissors, and a ruler. I'm also using glue, obviously, and some... I'll show you as we go. I use about 7 inches worth of yarn. So normally you'd use a cat brush for this, but like I said, it wastes too much for me personally. So I just pull it apart with tweezers and my fingers. It takes a little longer, but I like the way it looks and feels. And if you're broke and just starting, this is a cheap and efficient way to do this. But after a while, you get a pretty good amount. I took some saran wrap and put it down on some plastic, and then I took some Mod Podge. What I'm going to do with the Mod Podge is take a brush you don't care about, and this one you're gonna ruin it. So just have a bad brush you don't care about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Mod Podge and essentially just put a stripe down on the saran wrap or plastic wrap, whatever this stuff is. I'm going to put a strap, I'm going to put a strip of glue down so that we have something for the hair to adhere to. I don't know the word. Leave it in the comments what the word is. I'm kidding. No, that's weird. Anyway, I'm doing this on some plastic wrap so I don't mess up my desk. I have done it on my desk before, but it's a mess. So then I take a little bit of hair that I just made, and I'm trying to make it as thin as possible, and then I'm just going to push it into that glue we just put down. This is really messy and really gross. There's no way around it, I don't think. If you know a good, clean way to do this, let me know, because this is quite disgusting and gross. Your fingers come out all fuzzy. They need to be shaved. Anyway, here's a time lapse of me just going down the line of glue, smushing all this random yarn hair into the plastic wrap and glue. Okay, once we get to that, I didn't get to film all this because my camera had died. What you do is you take another bit of Mod Podge or whatever glue you have and just go over the same line on the other side. I feel weird to tell people what I do. I'm like, oh, look at this weird hair thing I made. So I took some small scissors, my small scissors I own, and I'm just going to cut a piece of the hair off at that glue part. So then you kind of have this double-sided weft, which is great on its own, but I'm going to cut it in half so I have, you know, almost like hair extensions that you get at Hot Topic back in 2010. Anyways, just cut it right down the middle, right on that glue line, and that's pretty much how you make a weft. That's my first weft for this project. I would normally straighten this, but I wanted this wig to be kind of crazy and free looking, kind of like Fiona Gallagher from Shameless. So anyway, I have a bunch of wefts made, and that's how I make my yarn wefts. So now I'm going to make a wig cap for my doll. This is a Wonder Woman doll that I shaved the head of. Well, I didn't shave, I pulled the hair out. But you don't have to do that for this. You could do it for Monster High, just do the same thing accordingly. You put some plastic wrap around her head and then take some small rubber bands and wrap it around the neck area, pulling the saran wrap as tight as possible. I took some black material, some stretchy material, and I did the same thing over that. Right around the neck, nice and tight. I'm going to take some rubber bands and put it around her hairline. This is an idea I stole from, I think it's Hextian. I don't know him personally. I wish I did. But it was a very cool idea, and it did help. You just kind of put it around where right above the, head. Right where the hairline would be. Then you take some Mod Podge and you go around the top of the head, just filling it in with glue. This is going to be the part that's going to make the wig cap for us. So we have something for it's going to be like a harder surface to glue the wefts onto. It's one of my favorite things to do. I think I don't know, something about this is just very cool. Anyway, so I did 3 coats on it, and it's pretty hard. Hard enough so when you put on the doll, it'll feel legit, I guess. I use those little cheap plastic rubber bands because you're just going to cut them, so it's really not worth having good ones that you like on there. So just use ones you don't care about or get some of those cheap little plastic ones. So now I'm going to cut around the excess material until all we have is the parts that have glue on them that look like a wig cap. Weird. Anyway, so that's our little teeny itty bitty wig cap. Also looks like a little do-rag because of the color. Normally you'd use a flesh tone one, but the wig's going to be dark, so I don't, it's fine if it matches the hair color too. So now I'm going to do a strip of I'm going to use this strip of glue around the bottom edge, something for the weft to glue to. This is really where it starts to come in handy and starts happening. So that's the first layer of hair, and that's how you start gluing wigs to, gluing a wig together. I can't talk today, I'm sorry. Anyway, here's a time lapse. I'm just doing the same thing around the whole head, just layer by layer, nice and slow. One layer above the next, so that each, the top of the glue weft is being covered by the one above it. So it ends up looking very strange. So for this part right here, what I'm doing is I'm gluing, or at the top or at the part, I'm going to glue the weft in the opposite direction I want it to go. Then once it's done, I'm going to flip it over that, like that, boom. Well, something like that. For some reason it was hard to film this because it was very dark in my room and my lighting wasn't enough. So I had extra wefts, so what I'm doing for this is I'm going around the inside of the wig cap. You don't have to do this. You could stop the other step. But I'm taking the wefts and I'm gluing them on the inside of it. So I have a little extra hair coming out from the inside of the wig cap that I can pull the hair over it and make it look a little more natural. So it kind of has some front bangs. Yay, front bangs. Anyway, so that's how I made this little glued wig. I probably would have straightened it for future references. Also, something got so dirty so quickly. Anyway, here we go. This is on the model. Like I said, I wanted to be kind of crazy and free looking, like a little more like, oh, young, fun summers, and I don't care about my hair. Hey nation, what goes on? It's Jay with IRN. Today I am going to teach you how to make Halloween masks for your dolls, because everyone needs that, right? I don't know, it was an idea I had and I really wanted to do it to dress my dolls up and make them a little more festive. So I'm starting off first with I put some saran wrap around the doll and their head to protect them, and then I'm taking some epoxy sculpt, a 2-part epoxy sculpt, and forming masks around the face. This one I'm doing a devil mask. I got the basic form. I'm wetting down my fingers as I do it to keep it kind of smooth and look a little bit less rough. Just a lot of trial and error, just carving, trying to keep that classic masquerade look of a shape. I'm putting the plastic wrap around the head so that it doesn't get stuck to the face, because I don't know what would happen. So I feel like safety. But anyway, so he ends up looking like this when I'm waiting for him to dry. Just, got some teeth, some horns and everything. So then I pop off the saran wrap, and then I have this little mask that fits perfectly to the face. I then take some red and I do a base coat over the whole thing. I think 2 or 3 coats of gray until I got a mask that looks like this. It does look less shiny towards the end, thank God. I then take some brown and I water it down and do a wash of brown and then a wash of black. So it ends up pretty much looking like this. again, it looks a lot more matte now. I take some hot glue and a piece of ribbon and I glue it around the corners, and that's how I make my first little devil mask. And it fits perfectly to the doll's face, which is pretty cool. So the ribbon's more decorative. For my second one, same thing, saran wrap the face, and then get some epoxy sculpt. This one I'm doing more of like a skull mask. So I'm starting off with a ridge for where the teeth would be over the nose. Then I'm covering the nose and the rest of the brows. Trying to keep it very bone structure-y. I did not have a reference photo because I just didn't. I don't know why. I'm going through with some tools and just trying to add some dents, make it look a little more natural, like real bone, a little better texturing. And then when I peel it off and pop the head off, it fits on. And so it ends up looking something like this. I added some extra little skulls around the nose and the brow area. And then I'm going over with a white to do a base coat. It takes a couple layers, but hey, it's all worth it in the end, right? I then go over some watered down black, and I go through and I add some shadows. It turned very gray, so I had to do it a couple times back and forth between white, grays, all kinds of different colors. Then I take some black ribbon, same thing, hot glue, very carefully glue it onto the sides. And I keep going back and forth because I didn't like the color of this one, if I remember correctly. By the end of it, it turns out to be a nice kind of gray with a white kind of wash over the top, which is what I was going for. I did take some black and go around the inner parts of the eyes and whites for like the tops of all the little skulls, and I took some metallic silver to just highlight certain areas, really make it look pop out from the other whites, because otherwise it's kind of bland and boring. And this mask I wanted to be kind of stand out and kind of creepy and kind of interesting. So with that being said, I glue the ribbons back on, and again very carefully, and then I have this fun little creepy skull mask for kind of like a I don't know what he's going for. For this one, I take a piece of tape and I wrap it around my doll's face. I then draw out the shape of a mask, like a masquerade mask. I then take the tape and I cut it out so I get the shape I want, and then I put it on some fun foam. And this fun foam, I believe, was black. I used black, I think, yeah. I cut it out accordingly, very carefully. I have some X-Acto knives. I have some to cut out the inner part of the eyes. This part I didn't film accidentally. I forgot to film it, but I do take it over a candle and then kind of mold it to the face so it fits her a little better. I then take my metallic purple and go over the black, try to make it look shiny. Yeah, I go over it a couple times so it's, nice. And then I take some black stretchy lace. This is my favorite thing I've done so far. I take the black stretchy lace, and I take some Mod Podge. What I'm going to do is I'm just take the Mod Podge, put it on the little bit of fun foam, I'm going to paint it on there, and then I'm going to essentially put the black lace over it, so that by the time I cut it out, it's a beautiful metallic mask with black lace over it. It's a little over the top. I have to cut it, obviously. Take my huge scissors and cut as close as possible. And then I get this cute little pretty mask. I wanted it to be kind of feminine and girly, but also kind of sexy. Same thing, add some hot glue and some ribbon. And then, by the end of it, we got ourselves a little mask. And I really like this one. I feel like it turned out kind of provocative. Next one. This one I'm going for like a half mask for like the under part of the jaw. So I'm doing another skull. Same thing, teeth. I start off with the teeth. Everything's wrapped in saran wrap, of course, to protect the dolls and use epoxy. So essentially just sculpting around the ears so it holds on really nicely. I wanted this one to really have a good grip on the head. So the jaw goes all the way above the ears and cover everything. So by the time it's all dry, pop it off. I got this nice little half jaw that covers his face. Anyway, it looks like this. Kind of boring, kind of bland, but I'll go back in with detailing of different colors. I'm going to cover it first in metallic gold because this is kind of based off a mask I actually have, which is a gold mask. So I do everything down in metallic gold. Let that dry, obviously, because you don't want to mess with that. I then go over it with a brown for like a dry brush, and it really highlights all the details. I then glue the ribbon down, and this is our little mask we got. Anyway, so that's how I made my Halloween masks for my dolls. It was a lot of fun, and here's a little montage of what they look like. Here's my devil guy. The clothes were all stuff I already had. I didn't really sew anything much for this. Well, the girls' ones I did. I might do a video about that. I haven't decided yet. I haven't really decided how I feel about doing clothes videos. Again, not very comfortable with it. Here's my skull mask. I like this one. It turned out slightly tribal, slightly, I don't know, Grim Reaper. I don't know. I liked it though. Next is our half jaw mask, I believe. Yes, this one goes with like a solid mask underneath it, so you can't see the face. All you see is the jaw. He's wearing a hood because he's evil and dark and mysterious. But yeah, last but not least is our little sexy lace mask. This one again goes with my girl doll. She's super provocative and dressed slightly slutty. No slut shaming. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Remember, today is not like yesterday. Okay, awkward silence. Bye.